For this episode of the Bruce Lee podcast, my guest is actor Jason Tobin. You may know Jason from his role as Virgil in the indie classic Better Luck Tomorrow, or Earl in Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift, or my personal favorite as Young June in HBO Max's Warrior. Jason makes his return to the Fast and Furious franchise along with director Justin Lin for Fast 9, premiering June 25th. And of course, we celebrate our triumphant return for a third season of Warrior in this episode. But more importantly, we talk about Jason's circuitous path through Hollywood and the obstacles he's faced, as well as what it is to show up as a warrior in his own life and what practices he taps into to do that. I asked Jason about his Chinese name after we had finished with this episode, so let me inject that here. Jason's Chinese name is Dou Zhenwei. Here he is saying it.
Dou Zhenwei. Dou Zhenwei.
And that means, according to his mom, success around the globe, with Zhen meaning good looking and Wei meaning longitude and latitude, hence around the globe. Jason is definitely living up to his name. Jason is a fun, electric, talented actor who I love working with and who I am so pleased to be able to call my friend. For more info on Jason, check out the show notes for this episode. But for now, sit back and get to know Jason Tobin. Hey, everyone. This is Shannon Lee. Welcome to the Bruce Lee podcast. My guest today is the fabulous, wonderful, amazing Jason Tobin. Hey, Jason.
Hi, how are you? Good to see you. Thank you for having me on. I'm so stoked to be here.
Oh, I'm so excited to have you here. We were just chatting a little bit before we got started here about how excited we are for season 3 of Warrior.
Yes. Oh, it's such great news. Like for everyone involved and people that aren't involved, just people for fans. But I mean, on a personal level, I'm extremely grateful because this has been the best job of my life, and I've had some good ones, you know. And so I feel like Warrior really brings two real important passions of mine, which is obviously I want to be a great actor, I want to do great work, and be part of a great story. But the other part is that I want my work to be important, to be part of something important, and I really feel like. We didn't know it when we made season 1 and 2, but we are so important now, more important than ever, you know. And so, this is really a testament to the warrior spirit of this show. This show has taken 50 years and getting canceled in 2020. Oh my goodness. So here we are, we're at it again. So I'm super happy. And again, thank you for all. I know you never quit, and I know that you pushed, and Justin did, and JT did, and so thank you so much.
Yeah. Oh my gosh! I mean, I was just going to keep fighting for this until my last breath. So I'm glad it happened before then.
Yeah. Thank goodness.
But really, JT and Justin, I really owe them a debt of gratitude because they were really in there having the challenging conversations with a lot of the executives and things like that. And I'm just so thrilled for all of us. This has been such a wonderful show. This show is named Warrior, but this show also has warrior spirit, through and through.
Yes. It really does. It's for me, it's about getting up. You're going to get knocked down. Mm-hmm. You're going to be out for the count. And I really feel like this is my own life. Throughout my life, there's been for as many great moments and successes as I've had, there have been so many more times where I've been, face flat on the canvas and out for the count. So, and this show just shows that, it's got this indomitable spirit, right? That fighting spirit, that warrior spirit, and it's like this show's dripping with it,
It really is. I mean,
Yeah.
from the name to its origins to
Mm-hmm.
all of you, like everybody
Mm-hmm.
involved, we just all love it so much, and we were just never
Yeah.
not going to give up. So,
We are here. We're here. Your dad's spirit is like freaking. He's kicking ass still. My goodness. My goodness. My goodness.
oh,
I have a question for you
mhm,
about the show, because I
yeah,
know that like I remember listening to your dad in the interview with Pierre Burton
hmm
saying, and he called it the Warrior, right?
hmm
And then I know that in some of the notes that you like shared with us, some of
hmm
his writings and drawings, he had written it as at one point it was titled Assam. Do you
yes.
know much about like when the name changed, what the significance was for him, or is there any notes about? Did he ever leave anything behind about how that came to be?
Well, I know he was the kind of person who was always playing with the name of something, and
Okay.
so he would change the names around from time to time. It was called Assam for a
Mm.
long time, and I think when he initially pitched it, that's what it was called.
Okay, gotcha.
But at in different drafts of the materials, sometimes it's called "Here Comes the Warrior," sometimes it's called "The
Ah,
Warrior," and
yeah,
then I think for us, like we just went with Warrior because even
yeah.
though the show, like Andrew's character is sort of the main protagonist, if you will, like
Mhm.
the show is about just warriors,
Yeah.
and like what it is to be a warrior and the warrior spirit, and so it's just sort of like more of a ability to say like this show is just warrior, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? so
Mhm. Mhm.
so so we went with warrior, paying homage to my father, and then just also the theme of the show.
Yeah.
So
Awesome. Awesome. No,
yeah.
it worked out perfectly. I mean, War is such a great, it's perfect. It is. Oh,
Yeah,
so fascinating. Yeah, because I mean, obviously growing up and being a Bruce Lee fan, like all these little things they're so interesting,
yeah,
and
totally.
I can just picture, obviously I've seen so many photos of your dad from that era, and like I can just imagine him sort of sitting there scribbling away, writing and like thinking about this show, and here we are, it, so far into the future from when he first had that idea, and here we are, like
Yeah,
in the middle of a pandemic,
I know.
and 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 we're making a TV show for HBO. It's just it's hard to believe sometimes. I have to pinch myself because sometimes I think like I'm in a what do you call it? Not AI. What do you call it? A simulation or something? Because
Yes,
like life is so amazing. It's like
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah. Life is crazy, that's for sure.
for sure.
Anything and everything can happen. But so I would love it if you don't mind,
Yeah, please.
um, if you would share with everyone here sort of your Bruce Lee story, because I know you have
Mm,
sort of a Bruce Lee
yes,
story for yourself, your own
yes,
personal one. Um,
yes.
yeah,
Sure. So, I mean, well, I was born in Hong Kong,
yeah,
and my dad's an English guy. My mom's Chinese, and growing up, I think I was, I forget how old I was, but my dad felt like it was important for me to have a Chinese role model. So he literally like he played, and he was into martial arts films too, right? So and he was at the time, I think he was training in Shotokan karate, and so he was really into martial arts and stuff, and Bruce Lee films, and so he showed me these movies, and he was right because I totally um, gravitated towards to Bruce, and for me he was my superhero growing up. He was definitely my inspiration, and I went to boarding school in England when I was 9, and at the time I was the only Asian kid, the only Chinese kid in the whole school. I think there were two uh, black kids, but other than that, like it was 99% Caucasian, white English,
mhm,
and so I did get picked on, and I definitely had all these like uh, racial things said to me, We're kids, so I think I look back on it with a different perspective now, but nevertheless, like I was, that spirit of Bruce Lee and that fighting spirit, which is what I always took from your dad, which was to never give up. And so when I was in boarding school, I'd get my ass kicked all the time. I was literally the tiniest kid in the school. But my attitude was always like, I will not give up. You can kick my ass to the very end, but I will not stop fighting. I will not give up. That was the attitude that I had. And it was the attitude that I feel like I got from your father. It's the idea that I kept going throughout my career as an actor and as a human being, right? Like, I mean, if you give up, then you're dead, So if you have one breath left in you, then just keep on fighting. And so I always brought that attitude to everything I ever did. And even then, when I became an actor, like, I really took your dad's philosophy to heart, I learned acting the way he talked about martial arts, in the JKD. I feel like I'm like a JKD actor, which is, take what is useful, discard what is useless, and make something that's uniquely your own. And that's how I approach acting. When I left Hong Kong, my dream was to become an actor. So I went to LA, and with that attitude, that JKD mindset, I was like, okay, so I'm going to find the best teachers. I'm going to learn as much as I can. And to this very day, like working on Warrior, I look at all my co-stars, and I learn from them. I'm always I'm stealing their shit, basically. Oh, Hoon. Oh, that's how you do it. Thank you. Oh, I don't like this one. So, and so I had always had this very personal relationship with your father. Like, when I was probably like my late 20s, I was going through this late 20s, early 30s. I was going through this existential crisis, and about my career. I had been an actor for 10 years by that point, but lots of ups and downs, and I just it had taken a toll on me, and I needed to like change my life. I needed to like re-examine. I needed to do some soul searching. In many ways, my dream of becoming an actor became almost imprisoned me, at that point. And so I wanted to be free, I wanted to express myself, and I didn't feel like I was getting those opportunities as an actor. And so I started questioning my life and like trying to think, where I'm going to go. And in this moment of sort of existential crisis, I decided that I wanted to finally fulfill a dream of mine, which was to, ever since I was a kid, I wanted to go visit your father's grave, and so in this moment of personal crisis, I decided, okay, that's it. I'm going to finally do it. And so I got in my car. I was in San Diego at the time, and I drove all the way up from San Diego to Seattle, and I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what to expect. It's I just knew that I wanted to do it. It had been a dream of mine to do it for years, and I'd never done it. And I thought, I may leave America and pursue something else and change my life. So I thought, this is my opportunity. If I need to go see your dad's grave. And so when I drove up there and I finally arrived, I saw Brandon's grave. I saw your dad's grave, and I sat there and I, like I said, I didn't know what to expect, but I saw that all these other fans had left messages and notes and flowers and trinkets and gifts and stuff. So, and I was like, I feel like I've got to say something, and so, and this is before, like, this is a while ago. So I still had like a actual paper map. It wasn't GPS. Right. I didn't GPS it to your dad's grave. I literally like, I had a map, right? So I pulled out the map that I used to get there, and I started writing on it, and like, I just it I thanked your dad because he got me through so many tough times, you know? And so I thanked him for being there for me when I needed him, you know, like this, whether he knew it or not, you know,
Right.
it doesn't matter. It's what he represented to me. And he gave me, uh, you know, like he made me believe that I could do something, you know? And so I left him this note, this message, thanking him. And then I just got in my car and I just started weeping. I
Oh.
was crying, like just crying, driving away, and like just like purging all these feelings and and it was also a moment for me because, like, you know, I grew up with your dad as my hero, but I also knew that, like, I now needed to be my own man, you
Mm.
know?
Mhm.
And so, like, it was this moment of like thanking him
Mm.
for being there, for getting me through my childhood, inspiring me to keep fighting when I was down and out,
Yeah.
and then and to say thank you. And now it was almost like, you know what I mean? I had to go through this change as well.
Yeah.
It's like now I not only am I a Bruce Lee fan, but now, like Bruce Lee said, I need to be my own man. I need to honestly express myself, not
Right.
anyone else's idea, not even my idea of who I was when I was a child, because I've changed, you know.
Right.
And and uh, and you know, I joke about it now, but it's funny because I thanked him in that moment for getting me through my childhood, but like we've talked about this before, like he's getting me through my adulthood now. You know what I mean? It's like,
It's the gift that
oh,
keeps on giving.
it is the gift that keeps on giving. It literally is. It's, oh man, thank you, Bruce. Seriously. And
Yeah.
yeah, so I've been a massive fan, and
Such a beautiful
it's
story.
oh, thank you, thank you,
Yeah.
thank you. I
Yeah.
and it was one of those things where, God, it's funny. I sometimes it's I like this story, but like it ages me. You know, some people are gonna figure this out, but to hell with it. So I was, I grew up in Hong Kong, and when I was 18, I was supposed to go to university, and at the time I didn't even know that you could be an actor. Like I didn't, as a kid growing up, as a young person, I didn't understand that that was a profession you could choose. For me at that time, all my friends were like, applying to, law school, becoming an engineer, an accountant, all the traditional professions. And I wanted to be an actor. And I didn't know. I knew I wanted to be an actor, but I didn't know like how to go about it.
Mhm.
And anyway, so I started taking this acting class in Hong Kong, which was taught by this American guy, this white American guy, who basically had like a monopoly on all the Western, guaylo, white guy roles in Hong Kong cinema at the time. And
Right.
I started taking his class, and in that class there was a woman from New York who had just arrived in Hong Kong, and she started telling me about these acting classes that you
Mhm.
could take in America.
Mm.
And because I was, going through my university applications, I was really confused because I was like, what do you mean? I don't have to pass an exam. I can just rock up and just pay my tuition and I can just learn acting. Like I was so blown away by this concept, Like, what? And so, long story short, I was 18, 19. I get on a flight to LA, and I first went to America on a student visa, and because obviously, no one's going to give me a visa to become an actor, right? So, I went on a student visa, and I went to Santa Monica College, and I think it was like I can't remember my first or second semester there. We were, me and my buddies, we were, studying for some exam, and then late at night, and they're all Hong Kong guys too,
Mm.
guys that I already knew that had also gone to LA, and then one night we were studying for our finals or some exams, and we were like, taking a break, and then all of a sudden we started talking about Bruce Lee, and then my friend goes, "Oh, I know where Bruce Lee's star is on the Walk of Fame," and we're like, "Cool, well, let's go check it out." So we freaking like cruise, from Culver City or wherever it was, and then we go to Hollywood Boulevard, and we like looking for it. And of course, my friend has no idea. He didn't know. He's like, he just pulled it out of his butt, right? And then all of a sudden we drive past Man's Chinese theater, and we get out, and then we see like there's this fresh, brand new star on the Walk of Fame, and it's like covered, right? And then we walk up to it, and it's Bruce Lee's star. Like they're gonna, and then we find out from some homeless dude there that's like, oh yeah, they're gonna like reveal it tomorrow morning. And we're like, what are the chances? And so
that's so funny.
So cool. So we took a bunch of photos with this fresh Bruce Lee star on the Walk of Fame. And then the next day we came back and we watched it. I think you were there.
I was there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, our paths crossed almost.
Yes, almost. Hey, Shannon, I'll see you in 20 years. Should have done something like that. But it was so cool because it was like, oh man, like, it's little things like that go, So please, anyone watching this, listening to this podcast, don't try and calculate my age.
Hey, listen, I mean, your age. What about my age?
Oh, I know.
Come
on. We look great, by the way. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And you do too.
Thank
you. So, I mean, you've touched on it a little bit as we've been talking about, but this sort of warrior spirit, this not giving up, this, and thank you for sharing, how much of an influence my father's been on your life. He's been a huge influence in mine also.
I bet.
But, sort of one of the themes I want to talk about in this cycle of the podcast is this notion of like being a warrior. And of course, you're also on a show called Warrior.
Yes.
But I mean, I have my experience of you as a warrior, but I'm curious for yourself. Like when you hear the word warrior, like what does that mean to you? And and how do you think you show up as a warrior in your life? I mean, you've already kind of talked about it, but but keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. I can talk about this stuff all day long. I think like, I mean, obviously it's in the word, right? War. And I think obviously war has this, war in itself is a terrible thing, right? I'm definitely not a warmonger but what that means to me is that life is always a fight. There's, like our ancestors and every living being on this planet has fought through millennia to be here. It's in our DNA. We are, whether you like it or not, it's in you. And it's whether you choose to like awaken it, because in our modern society, it's quite easy to go through life not being a warrior, because it can be very comfortable, right? And so for me, for me, showing up as a warrior is more about like never giving up and always confronting the reality of your situation. And I think that is something that I constantly have to do, because it's so easy to like lie to yourself, right? And like con yourself into thinking one thing, and so to honestly like and critically look at your own life to see what you need to do. For me, like it's always a constant. I'm always playing like these, I don't know if it's mind games, but I'm constantly like talking to myself and like I say this to myself all the time, which is fight, keep, never lose the fight in you. Keep fighting. You can rest, you can take a break.
Yeah.
You can even get knocked out and be almost done for, but you know what? As soon as you're ready, as soon as you I hear that voice in my head, come on, let's fight. Keep fighting.
Yeah.
Stand up. Let's go. And I mean, this is life, right? Like this is the most basic thing that, like every human being, okay, not every, but we all learn how to walk and talk.
Mhm.
But when you watch kids, you see them struggling to like stand up. They fall on their butt. They fall on their faces. So
Yeah.
it's like this constant expression, and therefore, as adults, like even in my job, right? I'm an actor. I'm playing this kids game, this game of pretend that we played as kids, and yet as kids, we also have to every day struggle and fight and like to learn, to walk, to talk, to play, to speak, to communicate, whatever. It's like, and so as an adult, I feel the same way. It's like, not just as an actor do I need to still be a child, but even as an adult, outside of my work, I still need to like keep fighting, keep learning, and keep falling my ass. So for me, like being a warrior is really about always showing up and never quitting, man, it's so inspiring because, these days there's so many examples of it,
Yeah.
and it's so easily accessible. You can see people doing amazing things. I'm constantly inspired by so many people in very different kinds of fields. And they don't have to be famous or rich. I mean, I'm talking about just the people in everyday life who like get up and continue the fight. I think this pandemic is just, really shown like, who are the real warriors in our society. The people on the front line who, all the rhetoric and all the BS aside, they show up and they take care of people, and that to me, those are the real warriors, like, and so me on TV, if to pick myself up from an audition that I didn't do well in, or a job I didn't get is nothing. It's nothing.
Yeah.
It's like literally nothing.
Right.
And so if these people can get up every day and go fight COVID, then I can goddamn well get up and work harder on my auditions and in my job as a performer and train. And the other thing I as a warrior too, like I use martial arts very much for that type of training. I think martial arts, like, develops an indomitable spirit, and I think that I think is the key, the indomitable spirit. That, that's what warrior means to me, the indomitable spirit. And I, I remember I was watching Israel Adesanya fighting for I think he was fighting for the interim belt against Kelvin Gastelum, and it was interesting because that particular fight, it's a great fight. Warrior was the advertising was on the canvas. So when I watched it back again recently, I'm like, oh, and but I remember in that particular fight, I think when Izzy comes out for the 5th round, he literally under his breath, he says, I will not quit. You're gonna have to kill me. Like that's that, and I think like that is the indomitable spirit. And
my father used that exact phrase.
Yeah.
A lot.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I that's it. Exactly.
Yeah.
Indomitable spirit. And that to me that basically encapsulates everything about being a warrior.
So what is your like when you're challenged, really challenged, like major obstacle? What is your style? Like, how do you tap into that warrior spirit? Like, what happens to you, and how do you get back up and keep fighting?
So one of the main things I do is take a deep breath, because how it'll manifest in me is frustration and an inability to get past my own self. Like I'm just so wound, whatever it is, and so for me, it's about taking a deep breath and calming myself down so that I hear that clear voice of reason and of power, you know what I mean? And just really silence it, because we have so many distractions. We hear thousands of different voices in our own head and of our own personality. So for me, it's about quieting everything down so that I hear the voice is the indomitable spirit, the one that says, okay, to get back up, it's not just about let's get back up. Okay, take a breath, lift your chest up off the floor, just push the floor a little bit. It's those micro. It's all right. Now get your knee Put your knee on. Okay, get your knee first. All right. Now get your other foot up. Now get your, it's not this like self-help. Come on, you got it. You got to do it.
Yeah.
Smash it. Blah, blah, blah. No, it's this
Right.
clear, calm voice that breaks down every little task into the tiniest little pieces.
Yeah. Whatever you
And
can accomplish.
exactly.
Just like,
Because probably my soul wants to quit, right? And so if I hear this voice, it's like, come on, get up, motherfucker. Come on. No, that ain't going to work. Because
Right.
even when I still, it's those small steps. Okay, just take a breath. All right, get up on your knees. And then even when I'm on my knees, I'm still wanting to quit. But because I can do these little micro steps to come back, then I eventually get to a point where I know my feelings will catch up to it. So now these days when I'm feeling a certain way, I know that it will pass. So if I'm feeling very negative about something or something, then I know it'll pass, because if I just take the tiny little steps, and those tiny little steps turn into bigger steps, and then hopefully eventually I'm running, and then those negative feelings will then like I'll overcome them that way. I'm definitely not one of these like I think like in this day and age, it's very hip to be like, sleep when you're dead, smash it. Every workout's got to be balls to the wall. It's like, no, actually, I think that's not really healthy. Like, I think, I would use like an acting note, which is you're playing one note. Life is not one note. Like, there's times when you don't need to smash it. In fact, there's many times where you shouldn't. It's probably better. Like, I was listening to Faraz Sahabi, one of the greatest coaches in the world right now, and he's saying the same thing. So you should go 70%, because consistency is more important. And so and obviously now these days we understand also that recovery is very important. So for me, like, dealing with the struggles in life, it's all about, the first thing I try and bring back into my life is consistency. So for example, like, if I get injured and I can't work out, or for example, I've been in quarantine for 3 weeks now, and while I started off with good intentions of working out every day, I didn't necessarily do that. And now, so did I beat myself up about it? Yeah, a little bit. But then again, I started small. I went back, I was like, okay, let's just do 1 push-up.
Yeah.
Let's do 2. Once you've done 2, you might do 10.
Yeah.
And then, okay, if you're done, you're done. And then later on, I do another, and so like, it's like these psychological games that I play with myself, because I know that whatever feeling I'm feeling will pass. So I might as well just, turn to my protocol, which is just take the next step.
Yeah.
It's like kind of like getting a script, right? For example, I've been an actor for how many years now, and but every time I get a new script, every time I get a new character, it's like I'm starting from scratch again. Okay, yes, I've done it many, many times, but step 1 is still step 1.
Well, and you've never done this particular role, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And you can't skip any steps. It's not like, oh, I've done so many roles in my life, and this one, no. It's like, okay, new script. Step 1 is, okay, I got to read it. I got to understand it. I got to see what's going on. I got to understand what I'm fighting for. And so, for me, it's about putting in, having a system or a protocol of how to like get yourself, to do things.
Well, I got to tell you, I think what you said is so great, and it's so true, and it shows, by the way, because like, I think you're such a phenomenal actor. You're so good on Warrior, and it feels fresh and it feels alive. There's not anything stale happening there. It's like you are giving your all to this character in this moment with these words. And so it really shows. And I think what you said is such great advice, because I think a lot of times, like you said, the go-to is to get really angry and to be like, come on, man, come on, but but you can't hear the clear voice when you do that. Like, you need to get still. And in fact, it's exactly what my father would do. My mom would say, like, when he got when something, bad would happen, or he'd get really upset for a minute, and then he would just get really quiet because it was like exactly that thing. Like, okay, I need to really tap into, okay, this has happened. So now what?
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
Yeah.
That is the voice. That is the voice that I want to hear.
Yeah.
That clear. And that's so cool.
And I
That's
love
so cool. Yeah.
and I love the baby steps, and I got to tell you, like, it's even just listening to it's inspiring for me because
Mhm.
we all do, like you just said, like, oh, I was working out a ton and then I stopped.
Yes,
I have
exactly.
some experience with that too.
Yes, haven't we all? Yeah.
But just listening to you say, like, well, okay, I'll do one push-up.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe I'll do two. Okay, why not? And like just in these little increments until you all of a sudden you're building yourself back up to, more and more and
Absolutely.
more.
Absolutely. And that's a real lesson in patience, like being patient
Yeah.
with yourself and 3 weeks from now, that time will pass. A year from now, that time will pass, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so you might as well start today doing whatever it is you want to do, because it's that future date is gonna happen. It's gonna come by.
Yeah.
And if you put in just a little bit, it's amazing how much that all adds up later on. That one push up today
Yeah.
can be, turn into so much more later on. Yeah, sorry.
And no, and it feeds on itself, because what I notice
Mhm.
is, like, you do one push-up and then the next time you're like, okay, I'll do two. And the next,
Yes.
and it's like as you keep doing it, it's sort of a momentum starts to build,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, and it starts to build on itself. And then the next thing you know, you're like, wow, like I've been
Mhm.
working out a ton.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and don't get me wrong. I mean, there are times to turn into a beast.
Yeah.
There are definitely times to be that,
Well,
like,
you
jock.
are a beast. You are
Oh,
a beast.
thank you.
Like, I've seen you. I saw how ripped you've
Oh, thank you,
got
thank you.
in quarantine. I
I
mean,
know.
physically, you're a beast
Yeah.
in other ways as well. But like,
Yes.
wow.
Yes.
But go
Yes.
ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking about that, I mean, obviously your father is like such a huge influence. I mean, like, he had such an incredible physique, and so that inspired me as a kid. Um, that's definitely been a big part of my life, training. And I remember, I talked a little bit about this on an Instagram post that I posted up a while back. But I remember, like, the summer when I turned like 14, my dad had a chin-up bar, which he never used. Like typical, like he had a chin-up
Like
bar,
most people with a
like
chin-up
most
bar.
people. Exactly, he had a chin-up bar, and we lived in Saigon in Hong Kong, and kind of far removed from other kids. And so, like, I spent a lot of my summer kind of on my own. And so I put up his chin-up bar, and on day one of summer, I couldn't even do one chin-up. And then by the end of the summer, I could do 30. And that to me taught me a lot. Like, it just, like, it's like, oh, it can quickly add up. Before you know it, if you just put in the time, you will get better. And so this gave me a lot of confidence even later on as an actor, because I remember when I first became an actor, I was so stiff. I was just like, and I would speed through my lines, just because, like, I wanted to get it out and done, and I thought that was good.
Yeah.
And so I don't think you would have watched me then and been like, oh man, this guy's talented. He's going places. But I knew that, like, if I just kept working at it, if I just kept chipping away at it, and I would get better. And that's from my background in martial arts and training. And it's like, yeah, if like your dad said, right? Like, was it, don't fear the man that's practiced 10,000 kicks, or was it one time? Yeah, exactly. So, and your dad, like, he had such a phenomenal back. His back was like, and so to this day, that is my favorite muscle group. So I like working everything, but like that has always been like my go-to. I'm like, yeah, that wide, that lat man. It's
spread
so those wings, like that's still the coolest pose in the world.
Yeah. Well, so quickly before I ask the next question, I will tell you, and I'm sure you've heard it, but you talked about patience, and my dad has such an awesome quote about patience, which is that patience is not passive. Patience is concentrated strength.
Why did I not hear this before? Concentrated strength. Yes.
Yeah, right.
Yes. It kind of in a similar way. It's kind of like the word love, right? In the sense that it's an action.
It's an action.
Like patience is not. Well, can you tell me that again?
Patience is not passive.
It's not passive. Yeah.
Patience is concentrated strength.
Amazing. That's so true. So true. So true.
Anybody who's like trying to be patient.
Yeah.
Okay. But I bring this up because we've been talking a lot about working out and the body and the physical side of it, but I also know that you have had to exercise your patience on a spiritual level many times. I mean, I remember when you were telling me the crazy story about you went out of the country right before the premiere of Better Luck Tomorrow.
That's right.
And then and then you were supposed to come back for the premiere, right?
Yep.
And you couldn't get back in the country.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I had moved to LA when I was 18 to pursue this dream of becoming an actor, and it tested my patience. I was patient. I worked hard. I was diligent. I kept pushing and pushing, and finally it all culminated. Finally with this little indie film that could. I went to Sundance, became a cult classic. It announced Asian Americans. There had been other films, obviously, but like this one really announced Asian Americans in a new light. It was subversive. It was in your face and unapologetic. And finally, I had this fantastic role in this film. And now I was, you think, okay, now maybe the doors are going to start to open, and I did. There are a lot of people who wanted to meet me and talk to me after that film came out. But at the time, going back to what we had talked about earlier, no one was going to give a kid from Hong Kong a visa to pursue being an actor, to take classes and do student films and to hustle so my plan had always been that eventually when I had something to show for myself, then I would be able to get a visa, eventually through that. However, things by that point, my past had kind of caught up to me because I'd been bouncing around between student visas and tourist visas and business visas in order to stay in the country. But on one of those trips, I'd been in and out of the country like 20 times or 30 times. I don't know by that point. But it was post 9/11, and they had noticed that when I tried to get back into the States to come back for the premiere, that I'd overstayed my visa at one point, and so they refused me entry. So I had to basically, I got to the airport. They put me in a cell for like 15 hours. You do a lot of thinking in a cell. You do a lot of thinking, push-ups, making friends with other cons. And so I had to go back to my home country and reapply for a new visa. And eventually I did get back into the country about 3 years later. And it was thanks to Justin Lin. He had hired me for Tokyo Drift. And it was the first time in my career where I was legit. I like literally had a visa that said Fast and the Furious on it. It was dope. And they give you this visa called an O1, which is called an extraordinary ability. And I'm like, like the sound of that.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
all right. That's
that's
all
all
right.
right. That's all right.
Yeah.
But, you know, like, again, it was, you know, I'd spent so much time getting to that point and then not being able to take advantage of that situation.
Right.
A lot of opportunities went by, and it wasn't long after Tokyo Drift that I basically had decided that, you know what, I need to change my life, and I'm gonna go back and I moved back to Hong Kong. I took a detour. I lived in South America for a bit, lived in the UK for a bit, and then I finally went back to Hong Kong. And then, you know, before Warrior, I didn't have an agent
Wow.
of any kind in
Yeah.
any country for 10 years.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
That's crazy.
That's crazy for an actor. Like, whoa.
Totally.
Like, I had worked, you know, sporadically in between in those 10 years as an actor, because people, through word of mouth, or people knew me from Better Luck Tomorrow, they would still hire me, or, you know, Justin would hire me or something. But it was, acting in those 10 years was not paying my bills. It was one of many hustles that I had going. And so when I finally got that phone call from Alexa to read for Warrior, and then when I finally, you know, got it and booked it, it was like, it's almost like I find it almost a little bit incredible to look back on my timeline. Like, how did I get here? You know,
Yeah.
and thank goodness, like, that I put in my work and I'd created good relationships before. Because this is another thing that I like to touch upon sometimes, which is, you know, in our society now, we always talk about like this positive mental attitude and like you can do it, and sometimes, you know, you're not feeling that way, and it's okay.
Yeah.
But if you've done enough good work and you've put in your time, you've sometimes other people can pull you out of those slumps, you know.
Yeah.
And it's not just always about you pulling yourself up by your bootstraps, because there are going to be ups and downs. And so, you know, having a community, having friends, having family, colleagues that believe in you, that can help you turn things around. It's like, I feel so lucky. Like, it's like that, like we talked about before, that the gift that keeps on giving, you know?
Yeah.
And, I mean, I'm repeating myself here, but I mean, the number of times that I've felt down and out, and like face flat on the floor, you know, yeah, it's there's so much of it. But, you know, again, going back, it's patience. You know, I remember I was listening to I think Robert De Niro talk about this recently on one of those Hollywood Reporter roundtables, and he was saying that, you know what, you know, this is a long game, you know, and if you're patient and you stick it out, you're going to see a lot of people come and go, you know. And I think, like, for me, like, as an actor, it's like, you know, I started off this conversation by saying, oh, it was 10 years I didn't have an agent, but you know what? I'm going to look back on it and think like 10 years was nothing. You know, at some point I'll be like,
Totally.
you know, like, it won't be anything. It will be nothing. Well, what's 10 years, you know, when you've dedicated your life to something. So I really want to play, you know, I really want to be an actor to the day I die, you know. So I hope that I get to play, you know, old dudes, you know.
I'm sure you will when you get there. You're not there yet.
Yeah, not there yet. Step by step. I'm still young June, although I think I should be middle-aged June at some point. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I have to say, something you said is really important, which is and it's on the theme of what you've been talking about this whole time, which is that, yes, there have been these big gaps and there have been these mishaps and there have been these times when you haven't, you know, had an agent or haven't been able to support yourself and all that. But you showed up every time you had a job, every time you had an opportunity, you showed up fully and you did your best, the best work that you could do. Right.
Yeah.
And you were a pleasant person to hang out with, and people could engage with you and be in relationship with you. And it's exactly because of those things, because you kept your spirit up, because you showed up when you needed to show up, that there will always be people calling you and wanting to work with you, you know?
Thank you so much for saying that. I thank you. I really appreciate you saying that. It means a lot to me. I mean, Justin has been, a great friend, a collaborator. And I've worked with him several times, and like he said, my attitude is always like, I'm going to leave everything on the field, like, if we're about to play a game, then all right, let's go. I'm willing to die on my shield. This is, leave nothing behind, make sure that you've given it your all. And I really feel that way with, most of my jobs.
Mm-hmm.
There's sometimes, the ones where I didn't, I've learned from that. And that's why I always want to keep coming back better and stronger. And I always like look at what I've done. And that's why between season 1 and 2, I thought to myself, okay, I want to improve in every aspect of my work as an actor.
Mm-hmm.
Not just the acting. Yes, absolutely, the acting, but as a professional, how I approach my work, picking up things from learning from what other actors and performers are doing. That I, because that was one of the great things about Warriors, watching all these other fantastic actors and seeing how they do their work.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, like, I was like, okay, physically, I want to come in better shape. I want to be a better martial artist. I want to be a better stunt fighter. You know what I mean? So I always wanted to improve in every aspect, and now I feel the same way. And in a way, I'm very glad that we've had a bit of time off, because it's like, all right, so these are things that I could. It's giving me time to practice. Those 10,000 kicks. You know what I mean? I'm like, all right,
Right.
And so, yeah, my attitude has always been like that. Let's lay it all on the line. Like, why hold back? I mean, to me, there's no point. And I look at this as, like, for example, we see it in all facets of life, right? When we see someone or an animal, like you watch Animal Planet and you see an animal like all of a sudden just legging it, trying to chase its prey, or one trying to flee, or you see an athlete in the moment, they're just going for it, or you see a performer, an artist, a singer, an actor really going for it. It's so enjoyable.
Yeah.
We really enjoy that, And so for me, like when I go to perform, I see, like, a cheetah like running across this, just full pelt, with expressing its body and its like will to survive and its desires, like that's how I feel as an actor. I want to give it my absolute all. And I felt like I did that, with, I don't want to toot my own horn here, but like I felt like, my attitude was like, look, people can criticize this or that, or may not like my choice here or there, but there will never, I'll not give them the opportunity to say that I didn't give it my all,
Yes. Yeah.
And so, and if I do that, then I'm happy.
Yeah. My dad said the same thing. He said, everything I've done with sincerity and to the best of my ability. And you can't ask for much more than that.
That's
right.
Yeah.
People can decide whether they like it or not, I guess. But all that matters is that in your heart that you gave it your all.
Right.
And that is satisfying.
Totally.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And now you're in Fast and Furious 9.
That's right. I'm back in Fast and Furious 9. So,
which is about to come out.
Yeah, out in June 25th. Wow. I mean, this is life, and this is about patience, right? Because, when I was first cast in Tokyo Drift, the third Fast and Furious film, that was the first film that Justin directed in the franchise.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't in the best of. I wasn't in a very good headspace at the time, because I had finally returned to America, had a visa, so on the surface, like, things were going well, but I felt frustrated at the time because, you know, I had originally been cast as somebody else, and then the things had changed, and so I was a little bit, I was a bit upset. I was a bit upset, and I didn't yet know how to process those feelings, and and um, and although I was grateful for what I had, you know what I mean? You can't help but feel,
Yeah.
because I've been an actor for so long, and when you think you're going to do one role, and then it gets changed and stuff, and so at the time I wasn't in the best headspace. But again, going back to what we're talking about: patience, time, perspective, and now here I am, 15 years later, and I'm back in the Fast and Furious franchise. And
Yeah.
so like it's given me this opportunity to really reflect on who I was and where I was at in my life at that time. And we tell ourselves these stories, we tell other people these stories, but then like another chapter happens that then has this ripple effect to all the other stories that you've told. I told this certain story about Tokyo Drift, and now it's a different story.
Right. Right.
And yeah, it's amazing what time and perspective and patience will do.
Well, it's also a good reminder not to get stuck in a story.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Don't get stuck in a story.
Right.
As good of a story as it can be, like, don't get stuck in it. Right? Another chapter. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, that's wonderful. So this podcast is going to release in May,
Okay.
which is in the United States, AAPI month, Asian American Pacific Islanders.
Mm-hmm.
And so
we're here.
We're here. That's right. And so, I just wanna ask you, like, just first of all, obviously there's been a lot going on in the world with just a lot of unfortunate incidents and minds that need to be opened and shifted and changed, but for a minute, let's just celebrate the Asianness. So tell me, like, if you could celebrate one thing about being Asian, what would it be?
Well, the first thing that pops to mind is food. Okay, because I mean Asian food. Come on. Come on. Do I need to explain anything more? Like, seriously, all these people that have like this weird, I really feel like with prejudice and things, like, you know what, food will bring us together. Come on, like you want to share culture, share language, and dance and music. No, just sit down and eat. Okay, just sit down and eat someone else's food. And have a chat with them. Okay, talk about the food, because that I think we should always celebrate. And there's nothing like breaking bread with another human being that is of a different culture, different mindset. It's very disturbing what's going on in the world right now, and I have a lot of thoughts and feelings, about it all. But yeah, I think, like, food is one thing that comes to mind, because let's not fight about this stuff. Seriously, let's not fight about this stuff. Like, it's the scapegoating of people, and
I have to say too, like, and this is just my own opinion, but I just, we've been talking about the warrior spirit and the warrior attitude, and all of this, and I just find, like, people who feel the need to attack other people or take something out on other people, in particular, unprovoked, with no anything, is like the opposite of the warrior spirit. It's to me,
it's fear. That's why.
It's fear.
It's fear. And the whole point of the indomitable spirit or the warrior is that it's not that you don't feel fear. but that you face it.
Exactly.
And not cower or buckle under it. And so I totally agree with what you're saying.
Yeah.
Um,
And I got to
yeah.
tell you, my mom, who is Caucasian, as we know,
yes,
blonde hair, blue eyes,
yeah,
but you know, she could speak Cantonese. We lived in Hong Kong,
yeah,
you know, and all that.
yeah.
And all the time growing up, she would ask me all the time, she's like, if you were stuck on a desert island and could only eat one kind of food for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Yes.
And both of us were like, Chinese food.
Duh. Duh, of course. Like, right? Exactly. Like, take politics out of it. Just eat the food.
Yeah,
Okay?
that's right.
Eat
Let's all just sit down and eat together.
I totally agree. I love Cape Town. I love filming Warrior there. but it doesn't have enough Asian food.
No.
There's not enough good Asian food there. No, I love Cape Town. I'm just playing. I'm just teasing. Who knows? Maybe we'll have to like correct that. But it's one of the things that I love about. Well, I mean, all over the world now, you can get really good Asian food. But yeah, living in Hong Kong, the food's amazing. I can't wait to get out of this hotel. I've been in this quarantine for 20 days. I get out tomorrow.
Oh, and tomorrow!
Yeah,
wow.
Tomorrow I'm out, and then I'm gonna go to my favorite. I'm gonna take my wife to our favorite hot pot restaurant, Chinese hot pot, and we're gonna feast. And yeah, I'll have to do more than one push-up, I think, after that.
Enjoy it.
Yeah, totally.
All right, one last question for you.
Yes, please.
This is one I like to ask everybody, regardless of what the theme of the podcast is, just because it is, you know, a podcast about life at the end of the day, you know? Yeah. And so the one question I like to ask everybody is, if you could share one piece of wisdom, like one thing you've learned, one piece of wisdom that really helped you in your life, and somebody else was just able to fully receive it, like, what would be that one thing you would want to share?
I would say it's something that I hear. I can hear Dad's voice telling me this, and it's happened so many times in my life, which is honestly express yourself. And when I don't know what what I mean by that is not about your opinion. No one gives a crap about your opinion. Right. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying express your opinion. I'm saying express yourself honestly. You know, through whatever it is that you do. You know, I think that is the real key to I think living a good life. You know, there's nothing worse than not expressing yourself, in my opinion. And
even though it's scary, even though it's
scary, exactly.
Yeah,
absolutely, it's scary, but that's what makes it fun.
Yeah,
right? That's what makes it fun. A little bit of fear makes it more fun. It's, you know, that's why we scare our children. And they love it. It's why we go on roller coasters. It's why, you know, we do these things, because actually a little bit of fear, like, you know, gets our juices going, and then you can express yourself, your human spirit, your indomitable spirit in that thing, and whatever that thing is, you know. So for me, it's honestly express yourself.
Yeah, I think my father, one way that he would put it, because those are his words also, obviously, is to make your soul visible. Yes, exactly. And I you know, that for me is what I do, you know, as an actor, as a performer, you know, like whether I'm doing stunts or fighting or you know, acting. Yes, I want to show you that. Like, I may be playing a character, but I'm going to show you my soul. You know, I love that. Man, that's such a. I can't believe there's so many Bruce Lee quotes that I don't even know yet. When we're hanging out in South Africa, I'll just hit you with a bunch over and over again.
I keep hashing old ones. I need some new ones. Cool. Awesome. Oh man.
Oh, Jason, thank you so much. I just adore you. I
Thank you so
cannot
much. Thank you
wait
so much.
to keep working together.
I can't wait.
And of course, well, we're already going to be lifelong friends. So
Absolutely.
that's just a
Absolutely.
given.
Hey, we're gonna have a great time in Cape Town, season 3. We're gonna have a fantastic time. I think we're just gonna have a great time. And I'm gonna make sure that I don't know what role JT or you have in mind, but
I don't either.
I'm telling you, halfway we're recruiting.
Halfway. Yeah, halfway all the way, right?
I can't see you as long Z, okay? Come on. Yeah.
That's right. No,
Yeah.
no shade to my long Z, people here, but
Of course.
Well, thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much.
Such a gift to talk to you always. People are gonna love this episode and love
Thank
you,
you. Thank you.
and can't wait to share it with everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. All right. Be well. Thank you, Jason.
You too. Take it easy.